Hello, wrestling family. Welcome to Sound the Whistle with IHSA wrestling official Tony Clarke. Each week, I will bring you interviews with prominent figures in the sport of high school wrestling. Hello, everyone. This is Tony Clarke. I want to thank you for listening to my podcast, Sound the Whistle with Tony Clarke. I wanted to add this addendum to the podcast that you're about to listen to, part 3 of me being interviewed by Season Marie. At the time we created the podcast, we did not have the changes that the IHSA has made to the upcoming wrestling season based on information they received from the Illinois Department of Public Health and the governor's office. As most of you know, the wrestling season is now going to begin with practice starting November 16th, first competition November 30th, with some other changes added to that. But this is all a fluid situation. I know there are some initiatives. Coach McGrath, Coach Oster, Nate Kesson, and some others have put a survey together and gathered other data to present to the IHSA, to have them present to their board of directors to possibly move the wrestling season down to the May-June timeframe to give wrestling a better opportunity to happen, just in case things don't get better November, December. So their initiative is to try to ensure there will be some wrestling. So again, I just wanted to throw that out there because I didn't have that information at the time that we did the original podcast. So once again, thank you for listening. Enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to Sound the Whistle with Tony Clarke. I am back as guest host. My name is Season Marie, and I'm so excited to be here yet again with the wonderful man himself, Tony Clarke. And today we're going to be talking about the uncertainty of the upcoming season. Welcome, Tony.
Well, thank you, Season. Once again, thanks for helping out with these podcasts.
I always feel funny welcoming you to your own podcast.
It's very awkward, but it's what we do.
It's what we do. And I really like having you on the other side of this. I like getting to ask you questions and pick your brain for one.
Well, when you're done picking this brain, you're going to be very, very disappointed at what you get on the other end.
No way. Wow. Okay, so today we're talking about the uncertainty. I think that's on a lot of people's minds with everything, not just wrestling. But for the wrestling season, with COVID, with life, with everything that's happening, what's the next season going to look like next year in 2021 for wrestling?
Okay, full disclaimer, these are my opinions, not the opinions of the National Federation, the IWCOA, or the IHSA, or the IKWF, or the IESA. I think everybody covered there as far as disclaimers. This is the opinion of Tony Clarke, the individual. Based on some information I saw in the Return to Play Phase 4, as far as the officials, I think our biggest challenge is going to be wearing of a mask when we're off mat and using an electronic whistle.
Oh.
Is going to be our two biggest challenges.
Huh. I didn't even know electronic whistles were a thing.
They are a thing. They are going to take getting used to for us as wrestling officials, because this is something we're going to have to hold in our hand, and we're used to doing other things with our hand.
Yeah.
The wearing of a mask, based on how I'm reading the IHSA guidance, is we will wear the mask when we're not on the mat engaged in the actual officiating of the contestants. It's when we come off mat, we will put these masks on.
Okay. So then does that kind of mean that every time the ref goes over to the table, checks in with the table workers, is asked a question, he's going to have to put that mask on every time he steps away? Because that could, I see that being a little difficult.
Because we're so unique that we do go to our table a lot.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer to that one yet. That's going to take some work. I am probably going to say we're probably going to have that mask in our pocket and we're going to have to put it on. I mean, but I'm not for sure yet how that dynamic will work, because we got to protect that table worker and protect ourselves. The table worker should be wearing a mask. we may have to do some things to limit our going to the table. I can communicate with the table without with that 6 foot buffer. I can create a buffer to communicate. We do it with our signals now. So that's a very good question, and that'll be something that's definitely going to be on the table, to ask how we handle our duties at the table with a mask, with a mask on or with a mask off.
Right. And how do we protect these kids? Because with the social distancing, the masks, you can't do that if you're wrestling. These 2 kids that are on the mat wrestling, you're breathing in each other's faces, you're interlocked, you're in such close quarters. What can possibly be done to try to make that safer?
We're going to leave that one up to the medical experts. If they let us have our sport. There's wrestling going on right now. And fingers crossed, we haven't heard anything bad. So it's going to be a wait and see. We got to get other sports going also. We got to know that there's going to be a football season here coming up in a month. And some of the soccer, the other sports that are also on the bubble, because if those sports don't get off the ground, it's going to be tough to get us off the ground as wrestling. And we're a combat sport, just like you said. We're in close proximity. We're out there an average of 10 minutes each match, rolling around, and we're gonna have to see what the powers to be let us do.
Do you have any idea of when you are going to know anything moving forward? How soon can people start to plan on what's happening next year?
No, nobody does. The problem right now is, one, they got to get people back in school. In order to have athletic contests, there has to be some kind of school participation. So they got to get that dealt with, one. And they have to figure out how to get the fall sports. If they can't get the fall sports up and running, there's no way to give attention to wrestling, because those are going to be in their face here. Like I said, in a month, they got to figure out what they're doing with fall. Luckily we're in the winter, and we have time to watch this play out a little bit longer. But football, those sports, they're around the corner. So that's going to be. There really isn't a timeline until those things are solved.
And this is such a hard situation to be in, because on the one end, everybody wants safety first, as it should be. We want to protect these kids. But then on the flip side, I was talking with someone, and it hadn't really dawned on me until they said this. I feel so bad for these kids, especially seniors, that are relying on this to get athletic scholarships. If there are no sports, there are no scouts to watch these kids, to help them get wrestling scholarships or football scholarships. What are they doing to offset this?
I think hopefully they've been scouting these people for a while, and they're going to deal with their past versus their present if there isn't one. I think those things, I hope, and this is my opinion, I hope those things would still flow. And again, like I said, there are other states that are wrestling. I don't know if people are migrating to those states to get themselves out there. I don't know what the full ramifications of other people already wrestling, but there are other places doing sports, and people are leaving our state to go to those states so they can compete. So our state just has a slower opening process, which I'm glad, because we're watching everybody else explode. I'm glad we're taking the precautions that we're taking right now.
Because safety is first. I mean, we can't stress that enough. That's what we want to make sure that everyone involved is safe and protected. So some rule changes have been happening. We're going to address a few of them. Let's start with the hair rule. I got to talk to Elliot Hopkins from the NFHS, and he was kind of touching on some of this, but I want to hear your thoughts on these new rules. Hair rule. Okay,
so the hair rule now will state that the official will no longer look for a length of hair. So a lot of people have a misconception that the hair rule was removed. There is still a hair rule. It's just going to address what's in the hair, not how long the hair is. So we no longer care how long it is in the back, the front, or the sides. We will no longer ask a contestant to cut their hair or put their hair in a cover. If they want to cover it so it's not in their way, that's their prerogative. They have to meet those hair cover rules. So I think this is it's good for our sport. It's long overdue. And I know that sounds weird coming from a person that doesn't wear hair, but this is long overdue. It was time for the rule to change. There was no evidence that this was causing a problem. College has gone to this a while back, and like I said, it's just time. It's time to move forward, and let's embrace the athletes for, if they want to wear their hair a certain way, let them do it, and they will adjust the hair so it doesn't interfere with their competition. So I think it's a good rule.
Okay. How about weigh-in? There's been some changes on the rules in the weigh-in procedure. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So now all contestants will weigh in shoulder to shoulder, regardless of gender. So the males and the females will weigh in together. Everyone will wear a competition uniform. So it can be their singlet or it can be their two-piece uniform. They will not receive additional weight allowance based on what they're wearing. So again, society is changing, and this is necessary to accomplish what needs to be accomplished at a weigh-in. The officials' duties and other things that go along with that. And for far too long, we weren't treating the females the same as the males. Sometimes the official didn't even know the female was there until they came out to wrestle. I was like, oh, I didn't know you were here. Who weighed you in? What was done? Nobody knew. So this is leveling that playing field. Everybody's going to be treated equally under this rule because they'll all be there and they're going to stay in their competition singlet. Other entities like a USA Wrestling, they've already gone to this. They were already ahead of us on this one. So again, this is a good rule change. It's going to treat the contestants equally going forward.
So how does that specific rule affect skincare checks?
The skin rule was never modified, and that's another thing that people are going to have to learn to separate. There's a rule for skin checks. There's a rule for weighing in, and the skin check rule was not modified. Now, the guidance coming down is probably going to say, most officials do their skin checks during the weigh-in, which means the wrestler's going to be in either a singlet or a two-piece uniform. That's fine. We're going to look at exposed skin. We're not going to have people disrobing unless we're given cause to. Because again, the skin check rule didn't change. The athletic trainer still has complete authority to examine a contestant to the means that they need to examine to make sure everybody's going to be safe out there. So skin checks are still going to get performed. It may have a slight modification of how it's done, but that rule is still in effect.
And there is another rule. This one kind of makes me laugh a little bit because I didn't even realize that there was such a rule. And now there is. Stalling when the shoe comes off.
Yes, there was a rule change that says if the shoe comes off during wrestling, the offended wrestler, the wrestler whose shoe popped off, will be charged with a technical violation for the shoe coming off, and they will be charged injury time to put the shoe back on because the rules require that the equipment is used as intended, which means the shoes should be laced up to the top eyelet and secured so not to come off. So this rule is just going to enforce that. We do not have an epidemic right now of wrestlers out on the mat with one shoe, so I don't think this is going to be a rule that's seldom used.
Okay. Have you ever seen that? Because I have never, at one single match, I've never seen this happen.
I've seen video, and I actually was part of a match. I don't remember if it happened last year or the year before. I was working as the assistant ref at a junior high meet, and we had a young man or young lad lose their shoe. But at that time, there was no penalty for losing the shoe.
Okay.
So going forward, now there will be a penalty if that shoe is lost in competition.
Yeah. I mean, clearly it must have happened for them to make a rule about it. So anyone curious on what to do when you lose your shoe in wrestling, now you have your clarification.
Yes, they do.
Okay, so another rule change that's come is fleeing the mat. What's new with that?
So the old rule was written that if a wrestler in the neutral position fled the mat to avoid being scored upon, the referee could charge them with 1 point technical violation in addition to any takedown that was earned. So the committee felt that, we've always called that double jeopardy. They felt double jeopardy wasn't required. If the wrestler was able to flee, then there should be no takedown. So if a takedown is earned, then there is no fleeing of the mat. They will just be awarded the 2 points, brought back to the center, and the match restarted. If they're able to get out of bounds far enough to avoid the takedown, then the referee can still award the 1 point, bring them back to the center mat, and start them. So it will no longer be a 3-point move.
Okay. Finally, for some of the new rules, explain the modification to the intimate scoring.
Intimate scoring rule is now going to look like, if there's a scoring opportunity about to happen, it's intimate, which means about to happen, I guess, if we look up that definition. Then the wrestler hollers out and says, "Oh, I'm hurt," and the referee has to stop the match to address the situation. Then the intimate would then take place, and the opponent will be awarded the points they would have earned had that match not been stopped. So it's going to be very simple to administer.
Okay.
And it should allow officials more of a comfort zone in stopping the match to see if this wrestler's hurt and awarding the points, because a lot of times you don't want to stop a match if it's going to cheat someone out of points, but then you don't want someone to be hurt in the process. So you walk a fine line as an official on, should I stop it or should I wait till he's scored? Now they don't have that thought process. I can stop it and still score the point and address the injured wrestler's concerns.
So that's great. Well, I like that these changes are moving towards a good new direction, I would say. And you're somewhat of I want to say an expert kind of, because you're a clinician and you're out there teaching these rules and regulations, so you know them pretty well, pretty backwards and forwards. Are there any other rules currently right now that you would like to see maybe modified or changed in the near future?
No. Truth be told, in the past 3 years, we probably have had 50 plus rule changes. Our sport is not broken, so I think it's time to slow down. We can make some tweaks here. I don't see any tweaks necessary at this point. With wrestling, though, in order to see if something needs to be fixed, you have to actually get out there and execute it. So hopefully we're to that point, like some of the other sports, where they may have one rule change every year or every other year. I think we're almost there. So there's nothing on the horizon that is going to that I think really requires anything to make officiating better. Now, that's not to say, like, I know there's a big debate on changing weight classes.
Oh.
That's going to come, but that's not going to affect the official per se. We're gonna referee what's out there. So if it's 13, 12, 14 weight classes, we're gonna referee those. So that's not something that we're gonna be worrying about as officials. We're gonna take care of what you put on the mat. So to answer the question in a long way around it, no, I don't see anything else really needing to be tweaked that's going to help with scoring. There's always something that can come up that can help safety, but I just don't see anything at this time.
But thankfully, there are great people like Elliot Hopkins that are working behind the scenes to keep an eye on all of that. And then when these things do arise, they're there to make the changes that are going to make the sport better.
Correct.
Speaking of the sport and sort of changes, with some of these rule changes, especially the hair, it's opened up the door for a bigger variety of wrestlers, particularly women. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Illinois recently announced that they are going to have the first ever Illinois High School Association state finals for our female contestants. So they're going to get the crown champion in the 2021-22 season, if I have that right, just like the young men. So that's going to be very exciting. Girls wrestling across the country has exploded. It is really
keeping our boys, keeping our sport relevant. We've had a decline in boys, but we're getting an increase in the females. So I think this is just another step in the right direction. The committee has been following this. We made rule changes to allow different uniforms that everybody, male and female, can feel comfortable in. The hair rule change is going to benefit both male and female. So we're doing our part in wrestling to not only identify that females can wrestle, but also to say, you know what, here in Illinois, we want to give you a state tournament and crown you a state champion. So, Lord willing, I hope to still be around when that tournament happens. And I just want to be here and watch history being made for these young ladies who have stepped into our sport. And we are accepting of all. I mean, we are one of the few sports that takes everybody, all walks of life. If you can't see, you can still wrestle. If you can't hear, you can still wrestle. If you're missing certain limbs, you can still wrestle. So we're all inclusive. So, why not, embrace our female brethren, if that's really such a phrase or a word, into the sport that we all love. And we are the world's oldest sport. We go back to the biblical days, and now our females get to join us.
I'm a little bit surprised that it took us this long, to 2020, to get the first girls' state tournament, but I'm so glad we're here.
Well, it's the first girls' state tournament in Illinois. Across the country. Okay. Texas has been doing this forever. Okay. A lot of places have beat us to the punch.
Well, Illinois, what happened?
It took, and we have a very exceptional group of people working from the IWCA board who have done an outstanding job. And I'll name them by first name, not to throw all their business out there, but Colleen, Debbie, Fred, in no particular order, did an outstanding job of bringing the issue that we needed a girls' state tournament to everyone, to the state association's attention. So my hat's off to them. Job well done. They got Illinois to be part of this national movement of letting these females wrestle and be recognized at the state level. They've been recognized at the Olympic level for a while. They're being recognized at the college level. So now high schools are starting to recognize their contributions. And at the kids level, we've crowned girls medalists already. So high school is that last little bit that is still trying to find itself. But I'm proud to say Illinois has finally gotten there.
That's exciting. And honestly, being at some wrestling matches, these girls are tough. Some of these girls are very tough and scary, and I feel like if I ever have a daughter, she's going to be a wrestler, so that way I know any date she goes on, no man will mess with her because she will be able to take them down.
Well, if you have a daughter and she wrestles, I've met your father. She will also know how to use a welding torch, so yeah, she's going to be a deadly combination of welder and wrestler. So that will be if you have a daughter to sit in the stands with your father cheering on his granddaughter will be a new high for both of us. So.
And she will be a pageant queen. She will be a very well-rounded woman.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Well-rounded, and beware to any man that comes near her. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. So no. Again, I think it's just a wonderful thing that we're doing for our sport. And I hope, like I said, Lord willing, I hope to be have the ability to call a match at any level of their postseason, so I can be part of that history.
I have a feeling I think that you will be. I'm going to put that out there right now. I think you will be.
Well, we'll see. These old bones ain't what they used to be. And, our young ladies deserve the best out there. So if these old bones are still moving, with some Crisco oil or something, I will try to get myself in that position if possible.
On a completely other topic, I would really love to get a wrestling little tournament together for all of you officials, because I'd really like to see you guys get back on the mat, put on a singlet again, and see what you guys have got.
Well, some of us are no longer at our what we call fighting weight. So the visual of that would be nightmarish at best. And we'd have to modify the periods. There's no way we're going 3-minute periods in most of our cases. Maybe these younger guys, maybe they could do it. But most of the older generation, we would probably get flagrant out of the tournament because we're going to do things that we wouldn't allow a wrestler to do just to get ourselves off the mat into an oxygen tank. So that could be a pipe dream, but it will never happen. I mean, you get your dad to get back out on the mat, we'll start from there.
You know what? I think I could do it. I'm just saying, give the people what they want to see. I want to see it. I bet there's other people that want to see this.
I'm gonna
stands cheering you on.
Yeah, I'll take that bet. I think I'm gonna take your money. Nobody wants to see us squeezing in a singlet or a two-piece at our age today.
So everybody listening, can you please comment in if this is something you would like to see? Let us know. Do you want to see Tony wrestling on the mat again? Maybe a little match between Tony and Weinsberg. I think we could do this for charity. We could bring in some money for a great cause. I'm into this idea. Tony doesn't look happy right now.
No. I'm a younger man than Weinsberg, so I have youth on my side. Plus, I got a little bit more girth than he does, so I should win this match.
Oh, this is giving me all kinds of fun ideas. So back to the topic at hand here. Where do you see, maybe two-part question. So before this whole pandemic hit, where did you see the future of wrestling going? And now maybe on the other end of that, post-pandemic, where do you see this future of wrestling going?
Pre-pandemic, I thought we were heading in the right direction. They were really fighting hard for the females to come in. We've had a lot of rule changes that have been to the betterment of our sport and to not exclude anyone. I mean, the hair change excluded the athlete who wanted to wear their hair longer. I mean, that's, and I'm just estimating here, but I think that hair rule is 1966. It's had a few modifications, but it was never eradicated. Mm-hmm. So that was taking us in a direction that says, hey, we've always said we'll take everybody. Mm-hmm. Now you can come over here with your long hair and, we'll let you in our sandbox. The uniform changes were good. We've made a lot of rule changes that have given us more scoring. It's made it more exciting. Our training programs have been stepping it up. We've embraced how to use video to help our referees learn. We've done a lot of things in that area to help these officials get better faster. We're using all the different learning styles, we have a lot of teachers on our clinician team. So we pull from the best of the best minds out there how we can, help the officials get better. So that's going in the right direction. So everything was trending the way it needed to trend to take us even up a notch. Now the pandemic comes along, things are slowing down. We have to work with our school sites to make sure we can still get in these buildings. Mm-hmm. But first and foremost, they have to be able to get the children back into class one way or the other, and then deal with us. Mm-hmm. But their importance is how do we get our students back in the game, and then wrestling clinician people. Then we'll worry about if we can let you in the building or not. Mm-hmm. I mean, I expect every district to have its own set of rules, and some of these rules are going to be tough. We not only have the school district's policies, we have to follow the CDC guidelines, the Illinois Public Health guidelines. I don't see the social distancing going away anytime soon, so we're going to have to adjust our clinics to that, to help meet that requirement. We may be there wearing masks. We may be doing a lot of hand sanitizing and things of that nature. It's going to change. I mean, I've been in venues where They put out a pack of pens. Once you pick up a pen to use it to sign something, that pen now is out of play.
Yep.
I mean, something that simple. We got to take pens out of play, and that affects how you sign in. So we're going to have to get creative how we sign the officials in, so they get credit for these clinics, because we can't share something as simple as a pen anymore. And that's there's going to be some challenges, not just the pen. There's going to be other challenges that we're going to be faced. Right now, I'm tasking the clinician team to set up a live online clinic. Other sports have done it at different levels. So we may have to do that when we can't come together. We do a 4-hour clinic online. We have the material. It's how we present it and keep you engaged for 4 hours.
Yeah.
We have to make the adjustments. So that's going to be our post-pandemic world, how we adjust. And, I've talked to people and I've said, some of these things like referees using electronic whistles and wearing a mask off mat, and, the wrestlers wearing a mask off mat, and the coaches. These are things that may be necessary if we want to have our sport back. So the naysayers out there that say, "Oh, I'm not using an electronic whistle, I'm not wearing a mask," that's going to be a minority opinion, and they're not going to be allowed to play in the sandbox because we have to sacrifice in ourselves and do what's best to get our sport back up and running. We're not bigger than the sport. So if the sport means, Tony Clarke, you've never used an electronic whistle in your life and you're going to look silly, I'm going to look good looking silly for the good of the sport, because it's about the sport, not about how uncomfortable I am wearing a mask, how uncomfortable I feel holding an electronic whistle, because it's never been about me. It's wrestling. You always hear that there's no I in team and things like that, and it's going to be the same thing. There is I in wrestling, but it doesn't mean individual.
Yeah.
It's part of what is. So that's how I see it going. I'm hoping that we get to sound a whistle, be it electronic. I'm good with it. I don't, maybe I'll get a flag and just hold up. I don't know. I just want something that lets me back on the mat.
Yes. Well, and we had kind of talked about this earlier on another podcast. This uncertainty has kind of played with the numbers a little bit. You guys are down big time when it comes to official registration.
Yeah, our as of this time that we're recording this podcast, I want to say we finished well over 500, and right now just over 200 have already renewed. Now that's a lot of what ifs in that. A lot of people want to make sure we're going to have a season before they commit to the fee. Some people, I don't know everybody's mindset. Some people may be a little bit cautious. I mean, we do have older officials who could be at that risk. We do have officials with pre-existing conditions who could be putting themselves at that risk. I mean, every person's going to have to decide what level of risk they are comfortable with if our sport allows us to compete. We are wrestling officials. We are former wrestlers or love the sport just as much as the fans and as much as the coaches and the wrestlers. And there are a lot of us who are just going to be aggressively saying, you know what, I'm going. I'm doing it. I'm going to be part of what's out there if we're allowed to get back on the mat.
Right. And I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's when. Because, the wrestling community, you guys are strong, and there is a deep love for this sport, and there's a commitment, and it's going to happen. We just don't know when. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, but at the end of the day, everyone will come together when the time is right, and you'll get back on that mat and blow that, like you said, blow that whistle, whether it's electronic or not.
Well, there's a correction. We never blow a whistle. We sound our whistle.
Oh.
We've spent years eradicating the word blow the whistle out of our
Really?
book. Yes.
Why?
That's just a phrase. We think we look better when we sound a whistle.
Okay.
So I don't know what other sports do, but we sound a whistle in wrestling.
Well, I love it. So then correction. It's just a matter of time before you guys are back on the mat sounding the whistle in any way, shape, or form.
Ironic that this podcast is sounding the whistle.
You know what? It's all becoming clear to me now.
There you go.
Oh gosh, what am I doing here? This is exactly why I'm not the actual real host all the time, because I can't even make the connection why it's called Sound the Whistle until right now. My goodness. Yeah. Well, anything else you want to say on the topic of our podcast today on where the uncertainty of the upcoming season?
Yeah, this is a good time to plug, we don't know how many officials are going to come back or stay away. But we need officials. I mean, we're aging out, and we need female officials. We're about to have a female state championship, which means that's going to be there long after I'm gone and others are gone. And it would be great if we can start to expand our female pool. And when I say our female pool, we don't need a female pool that's just going to referee the girls tournament. We need them to be able to do the boys state tournament. We want to embrace the female officials to be able to work both sides of the tournament, no matter who's out there. So, I'm hoping we can start, and this will let all the females see, come on, wrestling's ready for you. We need you out here working with us, so they can start to get better and get themselves positioned to one day have our first female at the female state tournament, because this is not our first female on our state floor. We did have a female Jan Strand, who did reach the dual team state level. So we've had a female work our state tournament before, but this is going to be unique to everybody to be the first official or be in that group that raises the very first female state champion. So I would love to be there to watch the bickering of who gets the first match of the state finals for the female. There's going to be a lot of bickering going on. Who's the bragging rights of who raised the first female's hand in our lifetime. So this is going to be a very uniqueness. So I'm going to ask all the officials to just start helping us recruit. Refer a friend, refer a friend to the iwcoa.net, how to become an official. There's no prize. We don't have any giveaway bags or any thing that you would get special. We just want to be able to have enough officials to do justice to the young men and women that wrestle in our state. We want to be able to cover them and cover them with quality and the quantity that they deserve to be rewarded for their actions out there.
Well said. Come join the family. Yeah. Call to arms for all the men and women that want to get into the wrestling world, into the wrestling referee official family.
I'm glad you said that, because wrestling's in your family. And I'm quite sure it's part of your DNA. Your father and he still is a heck of an official. What better mentor could you get?
I didn't even know you can't say blow the whistle, that it's sound the whistle.
Well,
what kind of wrestling referee would I be? Come on.
I blame your father for that lack of education. But I think if we got the former Miss Illinois, and you had some other titles, the former Miss Tennessee, I believe, right?
I love it. No, Wisconsin. Missouri.
You'd be the first former Miss 3-state contestant winner who also officiates in Illinois. That's another title for you.
I think that should be the one that raises the first female state champion winner's hand.
Our training,
power.
Yeah, our training is good, but I don't think we can get you ready in a year. Even with your father's DNA.
Have you met my overachieving self? Come on, of course you can.
Yeah, that'll be a challenge. 10 years down the road?
Well, that loses all the appeal, so I guess I'm out now. No, I do enjoy being on the other side of it and getting to be there as a trainer.
No, and you as a trainer, you're doing your part. Because it takes a village.
It does.
To have a wrestling match. It takes a village to put all these things together. So my hat's off to anyone, from a table worker to a trainer to the janitors that set up and break down to the concession workers. We're all in it to benefit the sport that we call wrestling. So my hat's off to everybody that even the person taking the money as you're coming in. I really appreciate everybody's due diligence in making these things happen, because with one piece of that puzzle missing, our whole sport falls apart. Yeah. So this is good that everybody pitches in and does what they have to.
And I will give some thought to that, because when my dad retires, I mean, we're going to have a Wyansburg out on the mat somewhere.
You or your mom, we will accept.
One of us.
Yes, we'll accept one of you, yes. It's time for your dad to retire. He's been around a long time. I believe, and he doesn't have the ability to correct me, I think your dad just reached 40 years of officiating at the high school level.
Wow.
Yes.
We
I believe he did.
Put his age out there for the whole
world.
We
didn't say his age. We just said he's been refereeing 40 years. Those that are smart will do the math. But yes, your dad, I think, if memory serves me, he just hit 40 years. And had we not had the pandemic, he would have been at the officials conference, which ironically would have been this past Saturday, receiving his 40-year plaque. So hopefully they'll mail it to him, and we can get some pictures and put it up on social media.
We'll have to have a little party.
Well, his nickname is Grumpy Gus, so I don't know if there's going to be a party.
Who doesn't love cake? Oh, can I just say that we had, so our cat, Priya, the family cat, she just turned 3, and we had a party, and who was there? Front row, Grumpy Gus, holding the cat. She had a hat on, she had a cake, she had a little princess skirt on. He was right there.
We need to get a picture of that.
So he likes I have one. I will show you afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, no, we got to post this.
I have one. No, he's like you, though. You guys are, wrestling's your life, your family. I mean, it brought you two together into this beautiful friendship, and then I got a second family out of it with you guys. So I'm very grateful to wrestling.
No, and we're grateful to have you here and doing this podcast with me, because I've told you, this would have been a very boring podcast with me talking to myself. So I thank you for doing this.
I love it. Anytime you need me, I am here. And all of you listening right now, make sure, if you're not already subscribed to this podcast or his YouTube channel, do that right now before you do anything else. Hit the subscribe button and make sure you never miss an episode, because you never know what Tony's going to say.
Or I have a lot of colorful interviews still coming up with some coaches and other officials out there. So, we want to do our best to share the knowledge that a lot of us have gained. We want to spread that to the next generation.
It's true. And I hijacked your podcast enough, so I'm going to let you end this one. You take us out.
All right. Well, once again, thanks everyone for listening. And, if you have ideas or anything that you want to hear or you want us to talk about, you have my email address. You can always reach me through Arbiter. Most of you know how to text me and find me. Find one of my clinicians and just say, hey, I'd love to hear this. So I need everyone to stay safe, and we're going to keep an eye on you, keep an eye on your families, and we're going to survive this. So hopefully we'll see you on the mat soon. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Be sure and follow me on Instagram, IL Wrestling Ref, or you can follow me on Twitter at Assigner Guy, ASSIGNRGUI, to be notified of new podcast episodes. Thank you and have a great day.